Welcome to the Workshop Therapy Podcast. I'm your host, Andrew. And today, the topic is I can't go it alone, and I don't need to, and I won't. And I'm also joined by my wife, by popular request. So kind of what I was thinking about with that particular topic is currently I've fixed the trailer on the road here a couple times now, right? I've fixed the brakes and I tightened the bearings, the wheel bearings, fixed the wheel bearings on both sides. And there's a few other little, fixed a gas leak, fixed water tank. What else have we fixed? Screens on the windows. One of the windows I fixed.
We fixed that.
Broken windows. But here we are. We're sitting at my brother's in Amherst, Massachusetts. And I thought I had a hub issue on the front end of my truck. Or our truck, I suppose I should say, since I'm talking to you. It's my truck. And so when I got here, I asked my brother who he takes his stuff to as a mechanic, because I can change a hub, but I don't have all the tools and the expertise. So figure, take it in, get that confirmed, blah, blah, blah. It turns out it's a rather bigger issue than just a hub. So now we're staring down a $5,000 repair bill. Basically, all of the sway bar, control arms, linkages, everything in the front end suspension that could be wrong is done. I guess that's what happens when you drive 5,000 kilometers on rough gravel roads and then drive another 10,000 kilometers across the country. But anyway, I guess my thought with that topic title, I can't go it alone, I don't have to, and I won't, is that there are times when you can do things yourself. And then there's times when it's time to call in some help. What do you think?
Oh, I get to talk now?
Yep.
Yeah, no, 100%. There's times when you can or you should do it yourself. And there's kind of times when, I think more times than not, we really don't have to do it by ourselves. And I think there's often a stigma that you're better if you do, that like asking for help or getting someone else to do it for you somehow diminishes your worth as a person. And I don't think that's true. I think you gain more and learn more when you interact with somebody else.
Yeah, it's kind of like a sense of community, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like no man is an island, and so everybody has their individual skills and talents. And when you take advantage of not take advantage of other people's, but when you take advantage of other people's skills, by paying them to do it, or trading, or however your deal is, then you get a higher quality outcome. They get something that they want. For example, the mechanic wants to get paid so he can pay his bills, or if there's an exchange of knowledge or something like that, you both learn and you both grow together. Whereas if you do it all by yourself, unless you're an expert in the field already, you do a subpar job.
Well, and I think that's almost like the detriment of today's society, of Google, of YouTube do-it-yourself videos, is it's creating a culture of I don't need anyone to some extent. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can do this myself. And for me, at least, there's a fear and an increased anxiety of just asking anyone for help with anything. Because you should be able to figure it out, or it's too expensive. Why are you spending money on that when you could watch a YouTube video and use a pool noodle to solve your plumbing issue? I don't know, but you know what I mean? Like,
fix your hole in your wall with some ramen and some putty.
Yeah. And so there's a misconception, I think, going around too, about the skill that it takes and the knowledge that it takes to learn how to do things. Anybody can do that. I'm able to do all these things. And I think, yeah, like I was a terrible cook when we first got married. Or well, when we first met, I was really bad.
Yeah, when we first met, you were bad. When we first got married, you weren't a terrible cook.
Terrible at that.
You weren't a great cook, but you weren't a terrible one.
Yeah, when we first met, I was pretty terrible. And I have improved in those skills, and I've become much better at it. And And that's something that I need to get better at for my daily life. But I'm going to be totally honest. I have no desire to fix any sort of plumbing issue in our home. I barely want to clean the toilets. And you know that's true. I hate if there is a hair in the shower. The whole water situation with dirt and germs just is difficult for me. I don't want to fix that. But I almost feel like I should.
Yeah, there's you see the video of how to do it, so you should be able to. Well, what I was thinking when you talked about the video aspect of it, go watch a video.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you're on like a Facebook group or something like that looking for advice, there's inevitably somebody who will ask a simple question.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's always the idiot who says, well, why don't you go watch a video? Why don't you go look it up? It's like, that's what the person's doing, like they're looking for advice on how to do it. And this is their chosen avenue. Why do you have to be a jerk about it? But yeah, so there's like the two extremes of you should do it yourself, or you should know how to do it yourself without any sort of guidance or input.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those pendulum swing things. Like, I think for me, when I was younger, it was more like you always hired somebody, you always looked for somebody, there was somebody around to do things. And it's different for you. You grew up on a farm. But now I feel like the pendulum has swung the other way for a lot of people. And part of that is economically, our situation is very, very different right now, just in the world, right? On a whole, we're not able to necessarily and to pay what people should be worth and should be getting today. And so I think that affects that too, and it makes you feel more alone because as much as I don't want to ever fix the toilet, I know that demand and availability could potentially cause me to have to learn how to fix that toilet. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but that's the advantage, though, I guess, of building a community of people around you, and when you have the ability to do something for somebody else or ask somebody to do things, if you do that, then when you encounter a problem where it's economically unfeasible for you to take care of yourself, or you don't know how to take care of it yourself, you've built that community around you who are willing to lend a hand when you're unable to do it or can't pay them or whatever, or more willing to anyway.
And I think that as parents, that's one of the things that we need to start teaching our children more, is how to build that community and how to look for strengths in others and appreciate them and not feel like you have to be competitive about them or better than them or do the same thing as them. And just be like, wow, that person is just like amazing at their thing. Mm-hmm. Or amazing at their 6 things. I'm not really great at those things. No desire to be great at those things. And that's okay. But I think society wise, we've created like almost where you need to compete at everything. And I don't know if that's like partly the way we're taught in schools or what it is, but there is a competition base, I think, or a shame base, whatever it is, that you should be doing these things. You should be good at these things.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so maybe that's something we should work at when we're talking with our kids more and when we're interacting with other kids and other people, just looking for those positives, those things that you can build on and not feel like you have to be all the same. Like, and I think that's the thing too, right? Oh, I like woodworking, so all my friends have to do woodworking and that's it. Well, that gets really hard when you need help with something besides woodworking.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
You get too specialized too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so having a variety.
So there you go. 5-minute Monday, or however long it's been that we've been talking so far. You don't have to go alone. You can't go it alone. And you don't have to. And you shouldn't. When you need help, reach out and ask for some help. Sometimes
mental, physical, emotional, any kind of help. Right? Like we've talked a lot about like thing help, but there's also a mental or an emotional or like, I'm done. I need some help. I just need somebody to watch my kids for half an hour.
Yeah, and I think that happens a lot, especially in the most communities. I think there's always the 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 people who, or maybe everybody, and there's only the one annoying person who isn't like this, who feels like they don't want to burden anybody else with their issues. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm going through a rough time, but I'm going to keep it to myself because I know other people are going through a rough time too, and I don't want to burden them. When sometimes maybe actually telling and talking to somebody about your rough time maybe puts the other person's problems into perspective, or they have some counsel, or just the getting it off your chest to somebody else is as beneficial to you as it is to them, because then they also can share and get whatever's burdening them off their chest as well.
And I think that's true in marriages as well, right? Like, it's not just friend relationships or colleagues. I think that's part of marriage, is sometimes that's where we start drifting, is when we don't communicate those hard times until we're shouting.
Yeah, it's like that that meme that we've seen a few times where the wife is sitting there thinking, oh, he hasn't been talking to me, and he's, must be cheating on me or something, and it goes down that rabbit hole and then flips over to the man, and the man's thinking,
I wonder what she's making for dinner tonight.
Yeah, or my motorcycle backfired. I wonder what's wrong with it. Yeah. But because they're both not communicating what they're thinking, it creates a wedge.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, so communication, you're not alone. You don't have to be alone, and you shouldn't be alone. So thanks for listening to today's episode of the Workshop Therapy Podcast. And yeah, do you want to say goodbye?
Sayonara.
That was a great sign off, especially the little hand wave. It's an audio form podcast. I don't know if that'll work. But hey, thanks for listening. I just want to say thank you to the founding members of the Workshop Therapy Patreon family. Eric of Overall Makerworks, Keith Drennan of Blackthorn Concepts, Brad of Brad's Customs, Matthew Serio from Arciano Serio, and the Grant Alexander. If you want to join on Patreon to support the show or just say thank you, I'd appreciate it.